Welcome back to the Life with the Browns. Kody Brown walked into Parowan, Utah, believing he had finally cracked the code. In his mind, the apology tour was going exactly as planned. He had already checked off 2 emotional stops. Janelle met him with tears, familiar softness, and the kind of grace that still surprised even him. Christine offered something colder but cleaner: polite distance, closure, and a new husband who calmly reminded Kody where his real focus should be: his children. 2 conversations down, 1 left to go. But Meri Brown was never going to be just another stop on Kody's carefully rehearsed redemption route. And somewhere deep down, even Kody had to know that. This wasn't a casual sit-down. This wasn't a tidy bow tied around a failed marriage. This was 35 years. 35 years of shared history, silent compromises, public humiliation, private heartbreak, and a slow, painful erosion that left Meri questioning everything she had once believed about love, loyalty, and family. Kody arrived expecting to deliver another polished monologue: measured pauses, selective remorse, apologies that sounded sincere but never went far enough to cost him anything. What he didn't expect was that Meri was no longer willing to sit quietly and absorb it. Not anymore. Sources close to the situation say the energy surrounding this meeting was nothing like what Kody experienced with his other ex-wives. Janelle still carried tenderness for what once was. Christine had emotionally exited the building long ago, her life already moving forward with David Woolley.
But Meri?
Meri carried something heavier: decades of frustration, years of emotional neglect, and a burning need to finally, unmistakably, be heard. What makes this confrontation so explosive is the sheer weight of what Meri endured. This is the woman Kody openly admitted he was never attracted to. The woman he legally divorced in 2014 so he could marry Robin and adopt her children. The woman who spent more than a decade waiting, hoping, reshaping herself, and trying to earn back a love that was never truly offered in the first place. Kody didn't just end a marriage with Meri. He dismantled her position in the family piece by piece, emotionally, spiritually, publicly. And now, after all of that, he showed up expecting appreciation for a few carefully chosen words. Insiders say Meri didn't walk into this meeting looking for healing. She walked in prepared for psychological warfare. She confided to close friends beforehand that she had no idea which version of Kody would appear: the explosive one, the deflecting one, or the version that pretends to take accountability while quietly blaming everyone else in the room. She admitted something even more telling: she doesn't know him anymore. And after everything he put her through, why would she? Even the teaser footage sent shockwaves through the Sister Wives fanbase. Meri cutting Kody off mid-sentence. Meri raising her hand and telling him to stop. Meri making it crystal clear that she was not going to be silenced again. This wasn't the Meri who cried alone in confessionals, hoping Kody would somehow intuit her pain. This was a woman who had finally found her voice and had no intention of giving it back. Kody may have assumed Meri would be an easy checkmark on his apology list. He was wrong. Because when you spend 3 decades dismantling someone and then show up expecting absolution, you'd better come prepared. Kody didn't. He came with the same script he used on everyone else. And that was only the beginning of his problem. Before Meri even sat down across from him, she did something we've rarely seen her do in 20 seasons of this show. She turned to her real support system. Not Robin. Not the family hierarchy. Her friends. That shift alone speaks volumes. Meri gathered with her best friend Jen Sullivan and her roommate Amber to talk through the upcoming confrontation. These were the women who saw her fall apart when the cameras were gone. The women who helped her rebuild when the marriage finally collapsed. And they were not about to let her walk into another emotional ambush unprepared. The conversation was raw and revealing. Jen didn't sugarcoat anything. She immediately questioned Kody's motives, calling the apology exactly what it looked like: potential manipulation. And honestly, who could blame her? This is the same man who publicly humiliated Meri on national television. The same man who admitted he was never attracted to her. The same man who once told her she'd need to wait 20 years before he'd even consider working on their relationship because she had supposedly been so awful to him. And now he suddenly wants to apologize. The timing didn't sit right with anyone in that room. What makes this moment even more significant is how sharply it contrasts with Meri's past behavior. For years, her primary source of relationship advice was Kody Brown. Sit with that for a moment. The woman who benefited most from Meri's legal divorce was also the one guiding her emotional decisions. That chapter is closed. This meeting wasn't about saving anything. It wasn't about reconciliation. It was about reclamation. About Meri finally stepping out of the role she was written into and rewriting it herself. And for the first time in a very long time, Kody Brown wasn't in control of the narrative. Meri was taking guidance from the one person who benefited most from her erasure. For years, Kody Brown positioned herself as Meri's confidant, her sounding board, her source of wisdom. But let's be honest about what that really meant. Kody had every incentive to keep Meri exactly where she was: quiet, loyal, emotionally invested, but never threatening. A woman who posed no romantic competition. A woman Kody openly admitted he wasn't attracted to. Someone safe. Someone useful. Someone who would continue pouring emotional labor and financial resources into the family while receiving absolutely nothing in return. And for a long time, Meri listened. But not anymore. Today, Meri surrounds herself with people who actually want to see her thrive, not just survive. People who challenge her when she starts making excuses for Kody's behavior. People who interrupt the old patterns the moment she begins to minimize her own pain. People who remind her of her worth when decades of conditioning try to convince her she doesn't have any. That transformation didn't happen overnight. It took leaving Flagstaff. It took creating independence at Lizzie's Heritage Inn. It took finally accepting the most painful truth of all, that the marriage she fought desperately to save was never going to be saved, because Kody never wanted to save it. Meri admitted to her friends that she doesn't even know which version of Kody she's going to encounter anymore. She's seen flashes of sincerity in past conversations, moments where he almost sounds human. But she's also experienced the emotional whiplash, the sudden mood shifts, the deflection, the way accountability evaporates the moment it gets uncomfortable. One moment he seems remorseful. The next, he's rewriting history and blaming her for everything that went wrong. When Meri told the cameras, "I don't know Kody anymore," it landed with a different kind of weight. This wasn't a short marriage. This wasn't a passing relationship. This was 35 years. And yet, the man sitting across from her feels like a stranger. Her friends reinforced what Meri already knew in her gut. This apology was never about her healing. It was about Kody regaining control of the narrative, about polishing his image, about checking one more box so he could say he tried. And Meri walked into that meeting fully aware of that reality. Still, knowing the truth and experiencing Kody's manipulation in real time are two very different things. To truly understand why Kody's apology was always doomed to fail with Meri, you have to understand the specific devastation she endured. This wasn't a relationship that slowly cooled like his partnership with Janelle. This wasn't a marriage where someone found the strength to leave, like Christine did. Meri's situation was far more insidious. This was a slow, calculated erosion of self-worth that unfolded over more than a decade. Meri was Kody's first wife, the original. The woman who stood beside him when this entire plural family was built from the ground up. She was there when Janelle entered the picture in 1993. She was there when Christine joined. And she was there when Kody arrived in 2010, and everything began to unravel. Somewhere along the way, Kody stopped seeing Meri as a partner. He started seeing her as a problem. The legal divorce in 2014 marked the first major public humiliation. Kody framed it as a logistical necessity, a selfless sacrifice, so he could legally marry Kody and adopt her children. But longtime Sister Wives viewers saw the cracks long before the ink dried on the paperwork. Meri wept through confessionals. She begged for crumbs of attention. She watched Kody receive everything she herself had been denied for years: time, affection, validation. while being expected to smile through it all for the cameras. Then came the catfishing scandal. In 2015, Meri connected online with someone she believed was a man named Sam Cooper. What she was really searching for wasn't romance, it was oxygen. She was starving for affection inside her marriage, so she reached for emotional connection wherever she could find it. When the relationship was exposed as a scam orchestrated by Jackie Overton, Kody didn't respond with compassion. He weaponized it. For years, that emotional affair became his justification for abandoning her completely. Never mind the fact that Meri was vulnerable precisely because Kody had emotionally left her long before she ever sought connection elsewhere. And then came one of the most devastating revelations of all. Reports surfaced that Kody once told Meri she would have to wait at least 20 years before he would even consider fixing their marriage. 20 years. Because, according to him, she had been really horrible to him. That wasn't just rejection. That was punishment. That was control. That was a man deliberately keeping a woman suspended in emotional limbo, close enough to serve the family, but never close enough to be loved. So when Kody sat across from Meri, armed with a recycled apology and selective regret, he wasn't just facing an ex-wife. He was facing 35 years of receipts. And for the first time, Meri Brown wasn't interested in forgiveness that came without accountability. The audacity of that statement still leaves fans stunned to this day. Here was a man who openly admitted on camera that he was never attracted to his first wife. A man who later went even further, claiming he never truly loved her at all. And somehow, in Kody Brown's version of reality, Meri was the one who needed to prove herself worthy of reconciliation. Meri lived what she herself once described as a sacred loneliness. She remained loyal to a husband who made it painfully clear he did not want her. She defended him in public while he dismantled her in private. She clung to hope long after hope stopped making sense, long after it became an act of self-sacrifice rather than faith. And now, after all of that, Kody shows up with a rehearsed apology and expects what exactly? Gratitude? Forgiveness? A clean slate? The wounds Kody inflicted on Meri were never going to be healed by carefully chosen words. They required acknowledgement, real acknowledgement, something he has never been willing to give. And that truth was about to be tested. The moment Kody sat down across from Meri, he launched into the same script he'd been running all month. The same polished lines. The same strategic vulnerability. The same attempt to cast himself as the magnanimous peacemaker rather than the man who caused the damage in the first place. But Meri wasn't Janelle. And she certainly wasn't Christine. She wasn't going to let him monologue his way into absolution. Kody opened with what he likely believed was a generous gesture. He told Meri that more than anything, he just wanted her to be able to move on. He framed it like a gift, permission to heal, freedom to let go, as if Meri Brown had been sitting around waiting for Kody's approval to reclaim her life. The arrogance was staggering. And then it got worse. Meri responded calmly. She told him she had moved on. She was doing well. She had built a full life without him. That should have been the end of it. But Kody couldn't stop there. He had to poke. He had to push. He had to twist the moment until he could find a way to make himself the victim, even in the middle of his own apology tour. That's when he crossed the line. Kody brought up Meri's friends. He suggested that the way they talk about him proves she hasn't really moved on at all. In one breath, he tried to undermine her healing by weaponizing the very people who helped her survive his years of emotional neglect and abandonment. The audacity was breathtaking. Meri's hand went up immediately. She told him to stop. Right there. The temperature in the room shifted instantly. This was not the quiet, compliant reception Kody expected. Meri made it crystal clear. If he didn't want to fight, he needed to keep her friends out of his mouth. She wasn't playing. She wasn't backing down. And she was absolutely not going to let him attack the people who showed up for her when he refused to. Kody tried to course correct. He insisted he was just there to apologize. He claimed he didn't want to argue. But the damage was already done. Within minutes, he had revealed his true intentions. This conversation was never about making amends with Meri. It was about controlling the narrative, about managing perception, about ensuring that his redemption arc stayed intact. And when Meri's friends refused to participate in that storyline, he lashed out. In his confessional, Kody admitted his first mistake was suggesting Meri had done anything wrong. He acknowledged that he was triggering in the moment. He told himself he needed to stay on point and apologize again. But even that self-reflection exposed the core problem. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was angry that his apology wasn't being received the way he wanted it to be. And that frustration, quiet at first, was about to boil over in a way no one could ignore. This was the moment Sister Wives fans had been waiting years to witness. Meri Brown, the woman who spent decades swallowing her pain, minimizing her needs, and defending a man who gave her nothing in return, finally stood her ground and spoke her truth directly to Kody's face. And it was every bit as powerful as viewers hoped it would be. When Kody tried to interrupt and steer the conversation back to his recycled apology script, Meri shut him down immediately. She looked him dead in the eye and delivered words that will echo through Sister Wives history. "You are not going to shut me down anymore." The weight of that moment cannot be overstated. This wasn't a social media post. This wasn't a confessional filmed in isolation. This was Meri saying it to Kody while sitting across from him. For 35 years, Meri had been silenced, dismissed, and emotionally sidelined. She watched Kody give Robin everything while offering her scraps. She endured him publicly admitting he was never attracted to her. She listened as he claimed he never truly loved her. She carried the blame for the catfishing scandal while his emotional neglect went unexamined. And through all of it, when they were face to face, Meri stayed conciliatory. She softened her words. She protected his ego, even as he destroyed hers. Not this time. This time, Meri came prepared. She told Kody plainly that if the conversation continued in that direction, she would walk away. She made it clear that attacks on her, or on her best friend, would be met with firm resistance. She established boundaries she had never been willing to enforce before. And Kody's reaction said everything. He had no idea how to handle this version of Meri. In his confessional, Kody all but admitted how rattled he was. He acknowledged that he was triggering in the moment. He described an internal dialogue where he kept telling himself to stay on point and just keep apologizing. Then he said something that exposed the entire flaw in his approach. He claimed it's hard to hate someone who says sorry 100 times. That statement revealed everything. Kody believed the volume of apologies should replace the need for real accountability. He thought repetition alone would wear Meri down, that if he said the words often enough, she would eventually accept them, regardless of whether his behavior ever matched. Meri saw right through it. She told the cameras that if the conversation continued that way, she wasn't going to engage at all. She was done being Kody's emotional punching bag. Done being the wife he neglected while still expecting gratitude. Done pretending his hollow words carried meaning when his actions told an entirely different story. The confrontation was everything fans predicted and more. Meri finally found her voice after decades of silence. She reclaimed her power in a moment that felt almost cathartic to watch. But this confrontation was only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Because Kody's apology tour was never really about the women he hurt. When you step back and look at the tour as a whole, a disturbing pattern emerges. This was never about healing. It was never about genuine accountability for decades of manipulation, neglect, and emotional harm. It was about one thing and one thing only: control. Kody Brown wanted to control the narrative. And once you view the apology tour through that lens, everything suddenly makes sense. With Janelle, Kody got exactly what he was looking for: a soft landing. Their shared history created enough goodwill that his apology faced little resistance. Janelle even took on some of the emotional burden herself, admitting she focused more on the family than their individual relationship. She gave him grace. Mission accomplished. Checkbox marked. On to the next. With Christine, the dynamic shifted entirely. She sat across from him, happily remarried to David Woolley, a man who shows up for her, a man who embraces her children as his own. Kody's attempt to set her free was almost laughable, because Christine freed herself years ago. She received his apology with the same level of sincerity he offered it, which is to say very little. She humored him because it cost her nothing. She had already moved on. But with Meri, the playbook collapsed. She didn't offer a soft landing. She wasn't politely indifferent. She was guarded, angry, ready to fight. And Kody had no idea what to do because his entire approach depended on the women receiving his apology the way he wanted them to receive it. Behavioral analysts and longtime viewers point to textbook patterns here. When control slips, when the narrative starts to crack, Kody doesn't adapt, he escalates. And that's where the story was heading next. Throughout this entire apology tour, Kody remained laser-focused on one thing: himself. His feelings, his image, his discomfort. He framed each apology as if it were a generous gift he was bestowing upon the women he hurt, rather than a long-overdue acknowledgement of harm. Look at how he approached Christine. He told her he wanted to apologize so she could heal and move on, completely ignoring the reality sitting right next to her. She was seated beside her new husband, David Woolley, visibly happy, clearly healed, and very obviously already moved on. That apology was never about Christine. None of them were. They were always about Kody. And that is exactly why Meri's confrontation mattered so much. She refused to play her assigned role in his script. She challenged his motives. She disrupted the narrative. Her friends warned her ahead of time that this would likely be manipulation, and within minutes, Kody proved them right. He went after her support system. He tried to redirect when he was challenged. He prioritized getting his words out over actually listening to anything Meri had to say. Kody even admitted in a confessional that he wanted these women to stop thinking about him, stop talking about him, stop being about him. That was the real objective. Silence the critics. Rehabilitate the brand. Stop being the villain in his own story. But real accountability doesn't work like that. You can't apologize your way out of decades of damage while refusing to change a single pattern of behavior. Meri understood that immediately. She saw exactly what Kody was doing, and she refused to let him succeed. But while Kody was busy flying from ex-wife to ex-wife delivering hollow apologies, someone else was watching this tour unfold with a very different kind of anxiety. Robyn Brown. As Kody played the role of the remorseful ex, Robyn was at home experiencing what can only be described as a slow-motion emotional crisis. And her reaction to all of this revealed far more about the Brown family dynamics than anything Kody said during his so-called redemption tour. When Kody first told Robyn about his plans to apologize, her response was telling. She didn't encourage growth. She didn't celebrate accountability. Instead, she immediately validated his past anger. She told him not to be too hard on himself. She reassured him that his feelings were justified. In other words, Robyn was already undermining the accountability Kody claimed he wanted to take. But the most revealing moment came when a producer asked Robyn a simple question. What if one of the ex-wives wanted to come back to the family? Robyn fell apart. She stumbled over her words. She became visibly emotional. She described the idea as opening a little portal of hope, then immediately warned that hope was dangerous. She admitted that even thinking about it would cause her to emotionally unravel. Sit with that reaction for a moment. Robyn has long positioned herself as the loyal wife, the one who stayed when everyone else left. Her entire identity in this family is built on being the woman Kody truly loves, the chosen one, the winner of a competition the other wives didn't even realize they were competing in. But if Kody's apologies were genuine, if he truly took accountability for how he treated Meri, Janelle, and Christine, then Robyn's narrative starts to collapse. Sources close to the family suggest Robyn needs people to believe that Kody genuinely loved all his wives, he just loved her more. That framing makes her special. It justifies the favoritism viewers watched play out for over a decade. But if Kody admits he was wrong, if he acknowledges that his treatment of the other women was neglectful, manipulative, even emotionally abusive, then Robyn's role shifts. She doesn't look victorious. She looks complicit. She stood by. She benefited. She got the bigger house, the better treatment, the majority of his time and attention, while 3 other women were left starving for scraps. Robyn's fear of the ex-wives returning has nothing to do with wanting the family back together. It's about protecting her position. Because real reconciliation would require Kody to admit how badly he treated those women, and once he does that, uncomfortable questions start pointing in Robyn's direction. Fans have spent years calling for a Robyn apology tour. They want accountability for the favoritism, the manipulation, the alleged alienation of children from their siblings. But Robyn remains insulated in her mansion while Kody does all the public emotional labor. And that tells you everything about who really runs this relationship. Before Kody even made it to Meri, he received a reality check so brutal it still echoes through the Sister Wives fandom. And it didn't come from an ex-wife. It came from the man who replaced him in Christine's life. David Woolley looked Kody straight in the eyes and said what viewers have been screaming at their televisions for years. Start with your kids. The moment happened during Kody's apology dinner with Christine. David was invited out of respect for Christine's marriage. He sat quietly while Kody delivered his familiar lines about wanting Christine to heal and move on. And in just 4 words, David dismantled the entire performance. When David Woolley finally saw an opening, he took it, and what he said detonated Kody Brown's carefully rehearsed narrative. David politely asked if he could offer a bit of advice. Then he delivered the truth Kody has spent years avoiding. The women, he pointed out, had already moved on. Christine was happily remarried. Janelle was building a life on her own terms. Meri had her bed and breakfast, her independence, and a real support system. The ex-wives weren't the ones who needed Kody's attention anymore. The children were. David sees those kids regularly. He watches them struggle. He witnesses the emotional fallout of Kody's absence in real time. And he wasn't about to let Kody congratulate himself for apologizing to adults while ignoring the children he left behind. Kody's response was immediate and defensive. He snapped back that he wasn't there for parenting advice. He insisted the dinner was about apologizing to Christine. He claimed he had already set boundaries with his kids and was now setting those same boundaries with David and Christine. He refused to hear what David was actually saying because hearing it would mean acknowledging his greatest failure. The estrangement between Kody and his children is staggering. Janelle has publicly stated that he is alienated from 90 to 95% of his kids. Leon Brown broke their silence just to call Kody a liar and a joke of a father, revealing he hadn't reached out since Garrison's funeral in March 2024. Multiple children have spoken about the trauma of growing up under Kody's blatant favoritism toward Robyn's kids while they were left behind. And yet, Kody still refuses to take responsibility. He told David the breakdown with his children happened as a party, not as an individual. He continues to blame the divorces, despite the fact that the timeline doesn't support that excuse. The kids began pulling away during the pandemic, when Kody's rigid rules applied to everyone except Robyn's household. They watched him choose one family over all the others. Now, he wants to rewrite history. David didn't regret speaking up. He told cameras he sees those kids hurting and hopes Kody reaches out on their terms, not his. That distinction matters. Kody wants reconciliation that serves him. The children need healing that serves them. Until Kody understands that difference, no apology tour will ever fix what's truly broken. By the time Meri sat down across from Kody, she had already done the work most people skip. She talked to her friends. She processed her expectations. She examined her boundaries. And she reached a conclusion that fundamentally changed how she approached that conversation. Meri knew this apology was never about her. It was always about Kody. In her confessional, she said it plainly. She questioned whether Kody had an ulterior motive, then answered her own question. Of course he does. That clarity didn't come easily. It came after years of disappointment. Years of defending him publicly while he dismantled her privately. Years of hoping he would change, only to watch him double down on his worst instincts. Before the meeting, Meri revealed something that shocked even longtime viewers. The last time she saw Kody at Coyote Pass during the property signing, they didn't even look at each other. No eye contact.
No acknowledgement.
After 35 years of marriage, they sat in separate cars, signing away the final physical tie to their shared history like strangers. And now, suddenly, Kody wanted to apologize. Meri went into that meeting with what she called very strong boundaries. She told her friends that Kody's energy messes with her energy. It always has. Even being in the same room with him can destabilize her emotionally after decades of manipulation. So she prepared to walk away. She promised herself she would not engage if things crossed a line. And she made one thing unmistakably clear. If Kody attacked her or her best friend Jen, she would hit back. No more turning the other cheek. No more absorbing criticism in silence. No more protecting his ego at the expense of her own well-being. This version of Meri came ready to fight, if fighting became necessary. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. For years, Meri was the wife who cried in confessionals, hoping Kody would somehow understand her pain without her having to say it out loud. She was loyal long past the point of reason. She kept trying to earn love from a man who admitted on camera he was never attracted to her. That Meri is gone. The woman who met Kody in Utah had rebuilt herself far away from his influence. She found her voice through her friendships with Jen and Amber. She found independence through her business. She found strength by finally accepting that Kody was never going to change. Armed with that truth, she was ready. Kody Brown's apology tour was always destined to fail the moment he sat down with Meri, not because she's bitter, not because she's unreasonable, but because she's the one woman who truly understood what the tour was about. Silence. Kody didn't travel to Utah seeking forgiveness. He traveled there seeking quiet. He wanted Meri to accept his apology so she would stop talking about him, stop letting her friends talk about him, stop being a living reminder of his failures as a husband. He wanted closure on his terms. Meri refused. By standing up for herself, Meri did something far more important than rejecting a hollow apology. She reclaimed her narrative. For 35 years, her story was written by Kody, the first wife pushed aside, the woman deemed unattractive, the one blamed for being catfished because she was desperate for affection. Not anymore. When Meri told Kody, "You are not going to shut me down anymore," she wasn't speaking only to that moment. She was speaking to every swallowed word, every lonely confessional, every ignored dinner table, every holiday where she felt invisible while Robin received everything. She was done being silent. Meri didn't walk into that meeting expecting a sincere apology. She knew that was impossible. Kody has shown, over and over, that he's incapable of the self-reflection real accountability requires. He blamed the divorces for his estrangement from his kids. He attacked Meri's friends within minutes. He positioned himself as the victim even while claiming responsibility. The pattern never changes because Kody never changes. But Meri did. And that's what matters. Today, Meri has her business, her friends, and, according to reports, even a new boyfriend named Ron she met through speed dating. Her life is finally her own. Kody's apology tour failed its final test because it was never built on remorse. It was built on self-interest. And Meri saw through it from the very beginning. She gave him nothing.
No absolution. No closure.
No permission to rewrite history. Just the truth, delivered directly to his face after 35 years of waiting.
So, what do you think?
Did Meri finally get the moment she deserved? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next chapter is already unfolding, and you won't want to miss what comes next.